And we are live.
We're live.
Okay, so we'll give a chance for people to join us anyway. Hello, Carol. How are you today?
I'm really well. Thank you for asking, Georgie. And I'm loving the weather. I mean, I'm a very much a summertime girl. I have to say, it's when I come into my own.
Oh, that's good. Yes, yeah. I love the sun. I don't like sitting in the sun when it's hot. I'd rather be in the shade. But as you can see, up north, it's not quite as warm as down south. It was at the weekend. Incredible that bank holiday we actually had nice weather.
So how's that cold water swimming going? Is it making a difference?
That's interesting because my husband said that this morning. He said, so how do you feel then? Do you feel all lively? And I can't say I was feeling very lively this morning. But I still am doing it. I'm jumping in the water in my tub. So I get up, do some exercise if I haven't gone for a run or a walk, and then I come back and jump into the cold tub. But it's not as cold now, of course, because it's warming up. So the lowest it was 6.7 degrees centigrade, which was pretty cold, but I managed it. And you only need to do a minute and a half, apparently, for the benefits. I'm tending to do when I can, as it's built up, sort of usually 5 minutes, as long as it's not,
that's quite impressive.
Yeah, but that's taken time to build up. It took me a while to not keep looking at my watch, my clock, to see what it was. God, we're still only a minute. But no, it is easier. There's no doubt about it. And I do like it. It does give me a wake up in the morning. But it is good, generally, cold water swimming, wild water swimming, because it's good for our immune system. It's good for resilience. And that's something I found really interesting, that when I am feeling less resilient, it is harder, because it is all about mindset, as well as getting your breathing right and dealing with the shock of going into cold water. But mindset has, I've really noticed, especially in the last couple of weeks, when maybe some days I haven't been as resilient, felt as resilient in the morning, that it has been more of a challenge to get in. I can still stay in, but it's definitely more of a challenge. And then I spent a week, as you know, working in Devon. I just want to say hello to a few people who are joining us, so do comment and say hello to us so that we know who's there, please. But yes, I spent a week working from my mother's house in Devon, and then on the way back I met my daughter so I couldn't have the tub, so I was having cold showers. Thanks, Susie. So I was having cold showers in Devon after a warm one, and then back to a warm one. And then I met my daughter on the way back in Clevedon, and we had brunch, and we went in the marine lake as well. And that, you know what, that was lovely, and it was incredible, because being somebody who would never normally get in the water in Britain, and that's honest truth, but recently I've been trying to, but I've never really, I'm one who doesn't choose to go in the water unless it's a really, really hot day. So we went to the marine lake, and the temperature apparently was 16 degrees. And you know what? It was like balmy. Really weird, because it wasn't hurting the skin or anything. It was just so lovely, really lovely day, and I really enjoyed it. And then I went again to a reservoir near here where we're allowed to swim, and it was 13.5 degrees. So I did notice it definitely cooler. But now I'm thinking, it's getting easier, isn't it? It's getting into the summer. And what's interesting is in the cold water swimming groups that I'm in on Facebook, everybody's complaining and it's not cold enough. In fact, Irily, who was also doing a challenge with me, we were both saying early on, we were wondering if our showers were cold enough, and we were saying how weird it is to complain that our showers aren't cold enough. So normally it's like, not warm enough. But no, for me it was about testing myself. I've thought about for a long time, and it just said when I did the course, online resilience course, and I thought, no, do you know what, this is something that I feel would be good for me. The end of our last lockdown, it would help me sort of moving forward, and I have actually really enjoyed it. And I must admit, my husband didn't want to get me a tub initially, didn't want me to have a tub in the garden, even if I just got an old dustbin, because he didn't think I'd stick at it. But I have. So, in fact, they're all impressed because they know that this isn't something I would normally do.
Wow. So is it worse going into a cold shower or into the tub?
Is it worse, did you say?
Which one's worse?
I was surprised when the guys running the course were saying it's harder going into a cold shower, because I thought, and they were saying it's easier, get in a cold bath, it's easier. Now the thought for me of lying in a really cold tub of water, I couldn't see how that was going to be easier. But then one day I thought, okay, I'm going to do it, because if I'm going to get a tub, I need to see what it's like. And I prefer the tub. Especially if it's icy cold water, it's constantly flowing over you. Whereas once you're in the tub, you can sit quietly. Although actually, if you're in a reservoir or the sea, then you're swimming anyway and you're moving. But no, I definitely do prefer a tub, or preferably. I mean, this is outdoors as well. I face it to the garden. So I actually was in it for 5 minutes this morning, and I faced the garden. I either just watched the sun coming over the trees, or I just close my eyes and I meditate for 5 minutes. Wow. Because once that first shock of the is over, literally it's then slowing your breathing down, which again is training us to deal with shock. So, and to automatically go into that calm, slow breathing. And that definitely is helpful. Yeah. So we've had a few messages, haven't we? So hello, Shaheen. Okay, so she says, you're amazing for persevering with it. I still need to brave consistent cold showers. Yeah. And do you know what, Shaheen? We started on this course that we did, and I needed accountability, hence Iralee was the only person I thought might be, silly enough to say brave enough, silly enough, whatever. And we started with literally the first week of having a hot shower and then turning it cold for 30 to 60 seconds. That was all. That was the first week. The second week was 60 seconds to 2 minutes, then 2 to 3, then 3 to 5. And before that, practicing some mobility exercises, and then so stretching, and then breathing. So 10 minutes of breathing, nice calm breathing before we did it. Now Iralee and I do the Wim Hof breathing, which is slightly different. But then somehow that seems to make it easier than getting in. Although I don't always do that, I do the calm breathing. But yeah, it is good. So go for it, Shaheen. Just building your resilience, but little by little. Amisha's saying I listen to the cold water thing. Yeah. As I think Iralee is going to be speaking with Dan Ratner on his podcast. And she's going to be talking about this and about the science behind it. So yes, watch out for that. We will be sharing that. So Shaheen wants to do the course at some point, and same reason, accountability, absolutely. And Iralee and I were messaging each other and sharing photos of us in cold water or whatever, not in the shower, obviously, but I shared a photo of me in the tub, and then I took a tub over to her. First time I met her, because she's not far from me, about an hour. And of course, we've only met online before now, and yet I seem to feel, I think we all feel, I've never met you, have I, Carole?
No.
And yet we feel like
seen this far.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll meet up at some point.
Yeah.
And so I took a tub over to Iralee because she was struggling to be able to have a cold shower that week. So I said, right, I'll bring you a tub. So no excuse, you've got to do it. Anyway, I can see we've got a few more people joining. So if you've got any questions at all, then not just about cold water, but anything, do ask. I'm afraid, unfortunately, but probably because of the bank holiday, we missed promoting this and letting people know about it. So apologies for that, but hopefully people can be watching it afterwards anyway. So what about you then, Carole? What do you do for your self-care?
Well, certainly don't do cold water. My body temperature always seems to be about 1 degree below everybody's, and so I can be.
That's me. I've always been a cold person, Carole. This is why I've always sort of. I've been surprised that I have been able to do this, because my husband's always warm. I'm always cold. I always put a fleece on if he opens the door. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you like the warm?
So I like the warm. Self-care for me is more about the meditation and the yoga. But first thing in the morning, what I do is ask myself, what do I need today, right now? And that sets me up for my day. Sometimes it's I need to go and get a coffee. Sometimes I need to read a bit of a book, or meditate, or go and turn the computer on, or just something. But checking in with myself to see what it is I really need.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah. And it was interesting because I was thinking more recently that I've been doing this ice water, cold water immersion. I've been doing since we've been allowed to the Commander Fit boot camp, all of which is exercise and pushing myself. And I began to recognise that yes, okay, I meditate, I go on walks, I run, whatever. But I realised that actually what I really wanted for me was a nice, gentle treatment, a nurturing self-care treatment. So I booked in at the weekend actually to go and have a nice, gentle treatment for me. Because I think that's nice, isn't it? Rather than you doing things for other people all the time or getting out and doing all the activity stuff, it's quite nice to actually just pause and not just have a hot bath, but actually almost put yourself in somebody else's hands, which is just a nice self-care thing to do, isn't it?
I also
think if you weren't so far away, I'd be booking in for reflexology with you. And I did look, honestly, Shaheen, I looked on the way on to see, because I knew you were Leeds, but I didn't know which side. And then when I realised you were the other side, I thought, oh, I'll have to leave it for now. It takes a bit too long to get there. But one day.
I think the greatest thing about the weather at the moment is actually being able to just sit outside and not do anything and just enjoy the soft, gentle breeze and listen to the birds. And they're so busy, aren't they? They're really active at the moment. I've actually got a vegetable garden this year for the first time ever. So I've been watching my plants come up.
That's interesting because I was talking to my husband about that and about maybe having a herb garden. And so, yes, it's funny how the weather improves and you start thinking about these other things that we could do and taking time for ourselves. And sometimes I just go and walk into the fields, and usually the cats come with me, and I'll just sit and feel the sun on my face and just relax, and I love doing that.
Really sometimes the art of doing nothing is all you need, isn't it, really?
Yes, we always feel that we're so busy, and we are. There's always stuff that I can be doing. But that's not going to help me, and I know that, and I can't be there for my husband or our practitioners or my clients if I don't put myself first. And therefore I do need to, as we all do, need to take our time for some time for ourselves. And yes, I agree. When the sun comes out and it's warm, even if I have to put my fleecy top on, it doesn't matter.
No.
Just being able to, if it's dry, because for a long time it's been wet, hasn't it? And again, not quite as nice. Yes, I'll still go out, go walking, but it's not quite as nice as actually just being able to sit. Sometimes I'll just sit in the woods on a branch somewhere, and I'll just let the cats run around me, or I'll just go and sit in the sun. And the weekend is just literally sitting down in the field and just enjoying the feel of the grass and feeling the sun. Nothing better than nature.
No. I wonder what our other practitioners do for themselves in the way of self-care.
Well, all sorts. Shaheen, what do you do? Are you still there? And it is, what we tend to look at is like the house of health, isn't it? And start looking at certainly I do with all my clients, how do we look after, how do we nurture ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? And certainly when I looked at it myself, I drew the boxes, and I just was writing down, what do I do currently? And looked at my life at that time, this is a few years ago, and realised that I'm in my office a lot, okay? So on the mental side, there's too much, if anything, going on here. And so it's about calming that side. So when I looked at my other boxes, what could I do that actually would counterbalance that as well? So the other thing is that I work on my own a lot. So and my husband works long hours, so I can get very isolated. So part of when I was looking at what can I do to nurture myself, it had two factors involved. How do I connect more with other people? And how do I find hobbies or things to do that calms the mental side down? So, for example, rather than learning a language or something, I remember at one point with some friends doing a pottery class. I mean, we made pigs. We just literally made the clay, and it was just so lovely. And even then, I had to watch the perfectionist part in me, making sure that it was good, it was right. And it was, no, Georgie, this is just about letting go and playing. And then I stopped when they began wanting us to learn all about the glazes and the temperatures of the ovens and things like that. So I thought, no, I want to just relax, enjoy it. I don't need to sort of be an amazing potter. I just want to play.
Just enjoy what you've got.
Absolutely. And then things like running on my own, great. Running in a running club, that brings the connection. But both of them gives that space for my head as well. Singing in a choir meant that, again, that's sort of relaxing, and there's benefits of singing in a group. And it was connection as well. So I think it could be really helpful if people just sit down and really look at how do they currently nurture themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and what can they improve? How can they create a bit more balance? Because it's about dipping into each of the rooms at least once every day to nurture ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And just we get so caught up in the day-to-day, so things tend to fall by the wayside, don't they? Before we know what's happened, we've got busy with the mental stuff, as you said. So then we don't do our walk, or or our meditation, or whatever it is. So it's really good to keep checking back in.
Yes, and and getting into a routine, so it almost becomes a ritual, so that it's something that you can't get on with your day unless you've done your meditation, or just like you would go out of the house if you haven't cleaned your teeth.
Yeah.
And there will be times that we can't, but it's easier to develop this habitual routine if we do practice it and get into that habit. But when it's a ritual, that's when it's really ingrained, isn't it?
I was having an interesting chat to somebody this week, and we were talking about the benefits of having a siesta after lunch. And perhaps the Europeans have got it right, so they can split their day up, and so you do all the really hard, perhaps mental exercise in the morning, have your rest, and then in the afternoon, evening, it's family time, engaging with people, making that connection, and seeing what a different type of day we would have if we just allow ourselves some space in the day.
I'm sure we would. I'm just going to say as well, if anybody wants to ask any questions about any topic, anything different, then by all means do. We're just wittering away unless any questions come in, basically. I remember visiting my daughter when she was spending her third year at university in Spain, in Murcia, down south. And I met her, and I'd gone back to her apartment where she was staying. And then she was going off to a party with a friend. And I just said, well, that's fine. You go off. And I'm just going to wander around the town, just not a huge town anyway. And I remember just wandering around, and it was like, late evening, and all the families, all the generations are outside, and having, just really socializing and connecting. And it was so different from what we do here, because, it gets cold or wet and it gets dark and everybody just goes in. And I remember actually my daughter had gone to Murcia, basically because as a 16-year-old she'd been on an exchange, so they went to Murcia, and the students there came over to us, and they got really depressed. They got really low because they weren't able. We all just went into houses. They wanted to all connect and be together, and they got very low because they were not meeting up with each other. They were just sitting in their families, apart from going out for activities, but in the evenings. Because it was so totally different. Really interesting.
Yeah, it's all this good, mental health stuff, isn't it? We don't realise that connection, how important it is.
But more people recognise it now, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Because of the past,
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. And a lot of people saying they've got used to not doing much now, though, as well, and that they feel less like being bothered to go out and see people. So some people are really keen, other people who are just, no, I'm quite happy just to stay on my own and not make the effort because we haven't had to.
And it's funny, you kind of get out of the habit of seeing people too, don't you? I had my sister-in-law over at the weekend for Sunday lunch, and we haven't seen each other for well over a year now. but I'd forgotten how much work is involved in making a meal for other than yourself.
Yes. Yes, no, that's true.
Yeah.
But did you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it. It was so lovely to see them, very relaxed. Dinner wasn't on time because we were too busy talking. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's have a look. Had a comment pop up. Okay, I wonder if you both mind talking about how to keep hope that you can recover from TMS, please. I've felt overwhelmed for months with my mind-body work, so I've taken a step back, but I'm in pain most of the time, and this fear of not being well keeps me stuck. So do you want to start off with that, Carole?
Do I? Okay. Hi, Marsha. Thank you for bringing something in around TMS and hope.
Yes.
Hope is a tricky one, isn't it? We're always hopeful of things changing. We're hopeful of the future. But the thing is, with the future, we really don't know what's going to happen. So this is about living in the moment and doing that moment-to-moment thinking that we talk about, and just bringing it back down to kind of your sense of self, so you don't feel that kind of overwhelm and that rise in anxiety. For me, when I was in pain, it was really difficult to disassociate myself from the pain, because the pain seemed to be me. But that's something I really had to learn, that actually I wasn't the pain was sending me the message. And so looking at what was it happening that perhaps I was doing I didn't want to. Perhaps I was living a life that wasn't truly who I was. Perhaps, I'd got responsibilities which were overwhelming. So there's all sorts of things came into it for me as far as pain was concerned. Do you want to join in, Georgie, as well?
Yes. I mean, for me, certainly when I see many people with chronic pain or TMS of any sort, often there's this desperation and this trying so hard. So really putting pressure on themselves because there's so much out there and not really, just trying too hard. And we know that when we're trying, we're creating resistance to being able to actually move forward. And it can be so challenging for people to understand what we mean by letting go and by surrendering. But basically, the more fear we have and the more focus we have on the pain and what we can do, what we can't do, and trying to just constantly focusing on that just fuels the pain. And quite often I have found, Marsha, that actually people who just sit back and just think, right, do you know what, just let it go, do actually then begin to make progress. But often you can't unlearn what you've learned. So by letting go, you're not going to ignore the fact that if you're angry, that it's actually a good idea to express that anger in a safe way, whether that's journaling, hitting a pillow or whatever, and then being able to rationalize it and look at what you've learned from it. So, but it's not that we're like you and I, Carole, we understand it, we use the strategies, but do we think about it over and over again? Are we constantly thinking about it all day? No, because this has now become part of our life, and we are more emotionally aware. So dealing with the emotions first. So as Maria said, surrender brings us into healing state. Absolutely, because it allows the relaxation response to start taking over. Surrendering, for many people say, well, if I surrender, then the pain's gonna fight back. But actually, if you think about it, even in war, if somebody surrenders, the other side stops fighting. And this is it, this when you stop trying and pushing and searching outwardly, then often you can get more to a point where you can let go and surrender. And if anything, I would be suggesting, just things like learning emotional awareness, practicing slow belly breathing, doing some meditation, sitting in silence, rather than this trying to keep up with everything that you're learning.
I think also there's a certain element of competition, isn't there, about what we're experiencing, and we see other people perhaps getting through it and we're not, so we feel in some way that perhaps we're lacking in something, or we're not trying hard enough, or we're not committed enough, or that striving element that you talked about, Georgie. So this is about realizing it's a very individual journey that we go on. It literally is, if all you can do is breathe, then that's what you need to be doing, and bring it really back down to basics, I think.
Yeah. And something else going through my mind at that point, now I can't remember. Oh yeah, looking at the more we think, I'm not better yet, I won't do better yet, the harder that is, because you're putting pressure on yourself. Whereas often if we look back to how we were 6 months ago or whatever, you can see that even there's a small amount of progress, that could be helpful. Having an evidence sheet, so that on the bad days when people are feeling really overwhelmed, they can actually show, read an evidence sheet which shows some of the evidence, or shows times when they haven't had pain, when they thought they wouldn't have had pain, or vice versa. But just to begin, it's more this. If you think that symptoms are the fight or flight response, it's showing that we don't feel safe. Then this is all about self-soothing, about learning to be safe in our own bodies. And sometimes that is a challenge, Marsha. And I don't know whether you have actually worked with somebody, but we know, for example, I see many people who said, well, I've done read every book, done all the online programs or whatever, and I still have pain. That doesn't mean that you can't recover. But books and online programs are generic, so they're there generally to help people, but you can't individualize it for each person. And that's where actually sometimes working with someone can help you begin to reflect, for people to reflect back to you. Because so much of this is about habits, isn't it, Carole? Your pathways are habitual. Our personality traits are habitual. The way our buttons are pressed, these are learned neural pathways from years gone by. And often we're not aware that we're reacting like that. So, for example, somebody who's said, well, I know how to breathe well. I've learned to breathe well. I know how to breathe well. But you can observe them, and you can tell that they're not breathing correctly. And they might be holding their breath, or they might be breathing very apically and quite fast, but they're not aware of it, because this is an unconscious thing. So much of this is unconscious. So I don't know if you've got any other questions after that from what we said, Marsha, but I hope that's helped. And again, we're answering, it's like a book, we're answering it generically without having an understanding, but...
I don't want this to sound flippant, but one of the things that helped me get through my pain was knowing that this too will pass became something of a bit of a mantra for me, because it changed all the time. So it was never the same, 2 seconds in a row almost, it felt like, but trying to just get on with life in spite of what was happening also helped me.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. So thank you, Marsha. I'm glad that was helpful. It's interesting because when we have pain, and I think all of us have had pain at some point, it's all consuming, isn't it? And then if you are in fight or flight, for example, if you're in fight or flight anyway, we're zoned into one thing to protect us. And if we're doing that, we get overwhelmed when there's anything else going on. So no wonder there's overwhelm already when we are in fight or flight. And again, this is about being able to relax, being able to self-soothe and calm ourselves so that we can then deal with other things happening as well. I lost my track there. There was something I was going to say.
I think the more we understand about the mechanisms about the fight-flight, the more it kind of makes sense to us as to what's going on. So we can almost identify which stage we're in, can't we? And then work with that particular part of us that needs that self-soothing, that calming down, that realization that this is going to pass, because actually we're sort of surrendering into that part of ourselves that we need to calm. And that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. And I think the point I was wanting to make, and I went off track and forgot, was that we often, when we're so focused on pain, it's like when we've got a new lover or something, somebody we're completely obsessed with, then we think about them all the time, don't we? And it becomes a habit. You wake up in the morning, you automatically think about them. It's the same with pain. It's the same with anything where we are feeling obsessed about something. And it's about then addressing that, to be able to start being kind to ourselves and just letting that go, and gently moving us, to maybe doing some breathing, so slow breathing when we wake up, maybe even doing some gentle supportive affirmations, maybe listening to an interesting podcast, not, as many people do, listening to anything and everything that's related to this work, but it's a podcast that, if you're interested in history, in fact I listened to one with Dan Snow. I'm not a massive history buff, but there was a podcast that he had, and on my way back from Devon I actually was listening to that, and it was just something that, it was about Israel and Palestine actually, and I just thought, do you know what, I don't have enough understanding about that. I would be interested to learn more. So I listened to Dan Snow talking about it, or one of the many podcasts he's got about it, and that's a way of, because if there's something going on that we're worrying about, it's too easy to go down that rabbit hole, isn't it? And either focus on the pain or focus on whatever else is going on, whether it's good or bad. It's about being able to let go and move our attention to something else. And if that's distraction, great, because it's something we can interact with, but it's stopping us actually, causing stress by fear and worrying about things.
Sort of feeding the stress, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the morning, I nearly always with my clients, I say, what's your bedtime routine? What's your morning routine? Because if their morning routine is wake up and scan the body to see what hurts, or to feel low and hopeless or overwhelmed, then there's things that they can do to actually start changing that morning. So they're changing that habit of automatically focusing on the pain, for example. In fact, I remember one of my neighbours had back pain, as well as severe anxiety and depression at the time, and she'd stopped going out. She was just stuck at home. And when she started looking into this, she told me that when she wakes up in the morning, she woke up with pain, but she actually had pain because she also had fear, and her story's on the website, so I can talk about it. It was many, many years ago. But when she woke up, she had a fear of bowel cancer, because a couple of their parents had bowel cancer, and she nursed them. And so, not surprising, she was worried about that. And then she was worried every time she went and opened her bowels, which she did in the morning. So she would lie in bed worrying about opening her bowels. And if sometimes when you get hemorrhoids, there's a bit of blood, and so any time like that, she was scared stiff. So it got to the point where she was scared of opening her bowels. And then the pain started, and then after she'd opened her bowel, she'd lie in the bath for half an hour until the pain calmed down. And so we just looked at the routine. I was saying, well, why don't you, when you wake up, get up? Okay, so get up and do something else rather than lying there and worrying about it. And she said, well, I don't want to get up. Okay, so what else? And I suggested that our affirmations audios that we have. So I gave her the audios to listen to, and I remember she said that she would put them on and listen to them for half an hour before she then went to open her bowels. And anyway, it broke that pattern that she had. And I remember her husband saying to me, "I am sick to death of your voice, Georgie." But it was something she found helpful, because rather than waking up and lying there for half an hour worrying about it, she would lie there, listen to the affirmations, repeat the affirmations, and it just broke that habit. It wasn't the full answer for her. She had other things that she was doing as well, but that was a primary thing in breaking that habitual pattern.
Yeah, just like you say, changing those neurological pathways, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We tend to just get stuck in a loop, don't we, and just go down the same one. So what's that story where they say that that a guy walked down a road, and there was a big hole in the road, and he fell in the hole, or it's on the pavement, and then the next day he walked down the same pavement and he fell in the hole again. And then he realised that actually I could just go round it. So he'd walk down the pavement and then he'd see the hole and he'd walk around it. So he was learning. And then eventually learned I could go a different route. That to me is a bit like neuroplasticity, that we can start working on different routes, so that becomes the habitual thing, rather than constantly facing the same challenge each time. Just how could I do this differently? How could I learn from this?
And now I'm intrigued.
Anybody has?
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, now I'm intrigued about your neural pathways and cold water.
Yes. Well, they're darn sight different from what they were years ago, definitely. I do remember 2 years ago, August bank holiday, swimming in North Yorkshire in a river. And I went with a couple of young guys, so a refugee I was supporting and his friend, and it was a brilliant day. We had a fantastic time. And I just thought, he hadn't been swimming for ages. And he said, I love swimming. I said, well, let's go. It's a beautiful hot day. Let's go for a swim. Not realising that this river was coming down from the hills and would be absolutely freezing. And I did it, but not like now. I mean, I was freezing, but I wasn't going to let myself down in front of these two young men. Yeah. So I made sure I did it, but I didn't enjoy it. Whereas now it is interesting because it's more of a challenge for me to do it. But it would be interesting to see what's going on up here now.
Yeah.
Well, I know what's going on up there that I'm consciously aware of is rather than, oh God, I don't want to get in. And I used to be the one in the family who would put a toe in, and then I'd go to my ankles and then my knees. This is even abroad in the water. I was the really slow one, and they'd all be going, just get in. It's easier if you just get in. But I was standing there at the edge of the water going, I can't do this. I can't. No, I don't think I want to do it. It's too cold. No, I don't want to do this. So what was I doing but telling myself, no, it's going to be cold. It's just going to be difficult. I don't want to do it. And we get what we expect. Whereas now, actually, I enjoy it. And interestingly, the first time I did a wild water swim, it was the day after I'd done my first cold bath. And the temperature in the bath water at that time was 9.5 degrees. And I did it. And I did about 3 minutes. And so I knew I could do it. And then we went to the reservoir. And just before I got in, there was a lady there saying, that apparently the temperature's nearly in double figures now. My whole mindset changed because, yes, I was going in, but it was my first time going in. And I didn't know how cold it would be. But when she said it was nearly 10 degrees, my mind, I've done that before. I can do this. It was double.
Yeah.
Tanya's going to do it. Well done.
She's going to be brave.
We're all going to have to get together and do this cold water swimming together. Sorry, Carole, you're going to have to join us.
That sounds like it.
Good for you, Tanya. Make sure you do slow breathing as you go in. I still, even now, when I go to do, go in a reservoir or river or whatever, you see people going, and I keep feeling like saying, just slow your breathing down, calm your breathing down, because that actually then brings us out of that fight or flight. And that trains us then to deal better when there is a shock. So yes, you will go initially, Tanya, but as soon as you do, you just slow your breathing down. And then it's just slow, calm breathing, basically. But yeah, tell us how you get on, Tanya. We want proof as well. We want a photo. And Carole, you are on the south coast. You're on the south coast. You have no excuse because I have to get in the car and drive 20 minutes at least to get to the cold water. Yeah. So how far are you from the sea?
10 minutes.
There you are.
Just
there
saying.
You are.
Yes.
And it's getting warmer now.
It is. You're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting warmer.
It is.
Okay, we'll wait for your photo, Tanya. That would be good. Do you know what? That would be such a good day for all of us to get together and go. Tanya is a practitioner as well. It'd be such fun if we all did that together.
Yes, it'd be quite a challenge getting all of your practitioners together to go in the water.
Maybe it would.
A bigger challenge than getting in the water itself.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. But no, that it would be fun. But yes, so see how you go. I must admit, I'm thinking now this is the easy bit. We're heading into the summer, but I've heard some people saying, it was really quite inspiring to get in the water and break the ice. And I'm thinking, oh, we'll see. I mean, I did start in was it April, March, April, and it was very, very cold. And so I think the first river I went in was 7.5 degrees. But I didn't take that was the one after the first time I went in where it was 10 degrees and it was, I can do that. The next one I knew, because it was a river, it would be colder. So I said to my daughter, I don't want to take the temperature until I get out. And it was clearly colder for the reservoir, and it was 7.5 degrees. But I'm glad I didn't take the temperature before.
Yeah. So have you got any challenges in, when you're perhaps able to go abroad somewhere else that you'd like to do cold water swimming?
What you mean, like Sweden or
Norway or something? Scotland.
Scotland would be bad enough. Yeah, well, at least now I know I can do it, and I'm always keen to do it. We went on Monday, and actually my husband did say, we were saying, why don't we go for a walk before we get on with anything else? And he said, don't expect me to get in though, which I'm surprised at, because he's the one that usually he's in the water. He's been monoskiing in 4 degrees water at not Pugby's, right, the Rother Valley in the past. And he used to put his flip-flops in his wetsuit because his feet were so cold as he was walking back if he came off. Had to walk all the way around the lake to get back. Yeah. So that, yes, but no, he didn't want to do it. But he came with me so that I could do it. But in fact, there are so many people there that he wouldn't need to go with the next time. But obviously, it's not something safe to do on your own.
So what other challenges, Georgie?
Well, I'm going on a weekend actually in the Lake District, and that is cold water swimming. That's in a few weeks, and that's with the online course that I did. So led by Army guys. So I'm not sure what else.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I don't think it's too heavy going. It's not like that program SAS.
Yes.
But no, I don't think I definitely wouldn't cope with that. In fact, my husband was watching that with me the other day, and when they all go in the water, he said, "Oh, you'd love that." And I thought, well, I'm not so sure about that. And they all lie all together in the freezing cold water.
Yeah, it's a fascinating program, isn't it, to watch?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
My husband often says, I wish I could give it a go. I wish I was a bit younger, I'd go for it. And he would go for it, but yeah. Whereas I think that maybe is a bit beyond me.
Me too.
So I don't know, other than, yes, we'll be practicing doing, breathing exercise and cold water immersion, and the connection with other people who've been doing the course. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. What about you?
Any challenges?
Or anybody else? Anybody else? Challenges? Not just us. So what about you, Carole?
I'm not really a challenge person, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Okay.
I'm all for the quiet life, really.
Oh, dear. And that's fine.
I disappointed my father greatly because he was a real sportsman. He was into all sorts of things, cycling and walking and, to do scuba diving, all sorts of things. But none of his 3 children were really sporty. So right. We've always been a bit of a disappointment to him.
Oh, dear.
But the grandchildren have more than made up for it. So.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's all right.
Yeah. I've got a son, the eldest son, who thinks he's 007 because he does triathlons and all sorts of things. He goes swimming with his daughter and what have you. Yeah. And in the freezing cold, Boxing Day, they were right there. And
yeah. That's good if it's for you.
Yeah.
But I work with lots of people who don't like the idea of setting goals. But it is about setting something to have hope towards, but not necessarily challenges. For me, I must admit, I do like a challenge because it drives me to do something. Like, for example, when 10 years ago, I did the Great North Run, so half marathon. I'd never done any more than sort of a 3K before. But for me, it was about proving to myself, and only myself, that now having started with this work and having seen Dr. Sana a few years before that, it was to prove to myself that I was fitter than I'd ever been in my life, and I was turning 50. And I just thought, okay, this is for me to demonstrate that I can do it. It did take a long time to do the training. You know, yes, I go out running, but actually it takes a long time to go out for a practice run of 6, 7, 8 miles or whatever. But I did enjoy it, although at the end of it, the friend who did it with me, because again, I need accountability. I am one of those people that needs accountability. She said at the end, oh, should we do the London Marathon next? And I remember thinking, no, I don't think I need to do that. And also part of that, interesting, I've just realised, was that the Great North Run is in September, and I am a fair weather exerciser. And this is another thing that the cold water immersion has helped me with, because I thought, well, April's the London Marathon. That means training right through the winter. And I struggle to get out. In fact, my husband used to laugh and say, if I was going out for a run, he'd say, oh, Georgie, I don't know, there's a cloud on the horizon there, it might rain. And actually, with part of starting this Commander Fit boot camp in about October, I think, last year, was to test myself, to see if I could get myself out there when there's a group of people there and to meet, whether I could do that through the winter. Of course, we had so many blooming lockdowns, I wasn't able to see, it wasn't persistent. But I did go out when it was icy cold. I did go out when it was raining. In fact, a few weeks ago, it was pouring with rain, really pouring with rain. I have never in my life managed to get myself out to a class or gone running or anything in the pouring rain. And I did. And I remember actually just thinking to myself, okay, so once I'm there, once I'm doing it, it'll be fine. And I can come back and I'll feel better for having done it, rather than just focusing on oh, it's raining, oh, I'll be cold, oh, I don't want to go. Yeah. And I knew that mindset difference, that the cold water immersion and getting myself to do something I didn't want to do, had definitely helped with that. So that was something I was really intrigued by. So I know I can do it now.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, this too will pass, even the bad weather and getting through the class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's interesting. But I remember many years ago, we teach reframe with people, how to, if there's something that they want to do that they have fear about, that could be sitting in a chair. It could be going for a run, starting running again, or doing something active. And I remember thinking, well, I'm always encouraging my clients to do things that they are scared of. So what is it that I'm scared of that I could use this? Because then I'm walking the talk. God, I'm always so hard on myself, aren't I? Anyway, there were two things. One was I used to have a phobia about spiders, to the point that when we first got married, my husband saw a big spider. No, I saw the spider and I asked him to get rid of it. So he went and picked it up and he walked towards me. As somebody who has a phobia, that is not a good thing. And he realized very quickly that I'd either kill him or break the door to get out. So he didn't try that one again. But I gradually over the years managed to calm myself down. And partly because I didn't want to pass this on to my kids. I think I failed on one of them. But I just felt, okay, I got to the point where I was able to put a cup over, and then I'd leave it for my husband to remove. And then I got to the point finally where I could put a cup and a piece of paper under and then just go, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to use this reframe so that I can pick up spiders. Now, what I used to do was when I saw a spider, the first time that it happened, I saw the spider, and it's only a small one, but I went towards it, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to do this, yeah, and I kept my breathing calm, and I picked it up successfully, but then went, because it wriggled in my hands. And then I remember thinking, oh, that was a bit stupid, because that's reinforced it's scary, because I've just thrown it. What I didn't think about was, why not find a spider in the bath and then just put it back in the bath and pick it up and put it back in the bath? Because I kept putting it outside. So then you've got to wait to find another spider. So this took some time. But the next time I literally picked it up and I just kept my breathing calm, and I literally was going, hello, you little spider. Aren't you a lovely little spider? And over the time, I did gradually get to the point where I could pick up a spider. And although I will sort of have to say a big spider that's quickly moving, I might jump, I will then consciously calm my breathing and I will go up and I can pick it up and move it away. So that was what I did. And then in New Zealand, when we were visiting our son, and I knew my husband wanted to do, what do you call it, jumping out of an aeroplane?
Parachuting, parascending?
Well, parachuting.
Skydiving.
Skydiving's the word. I was looking for. Thank you. So skydiving, and I'll come on to a question in a minute, Tanya. So skydiving. So I used this same approach. I offloaded how scared I was. I rationalised it, and then I decided I was going to do it because I hadn't the time before, and they looked like they had such a fantastic time that I wanted to experience it. And if nobody's ever watched, oh gosh, what's he called? The actor Will Smith talking about parachuting. Just go into YouTube, put Will Smith parachuting or skydiving. His experience was like mine, and it's really funny. He explains it in a really funny way. And so I used that and just kept breathing low, really calm and slow. And yes, when the doors opened, that was a scary bit, but then I kept my breathing calm. Yes, being thrown out the door, even more scary. But from that moment on, and this is what Will Smith says, the most safe time is when you're in the aeroplane, and yet that's the time you're most scared. And once you're out, that's so awesome. I literally went, and then went, and then from then on it was wonderful. So it's like, if we don't face our fears, our life becomes so enclosed, doesn't it? And so this is part of what I was doing, was actually using the tools I teach to help me to overcome some of the fears that I had. So anyway, okay, so Tanya, what advice, you've seen this question, so I'll let you do this, Carole. What advice might you both offer to people who feel they've been following all the advice but are not seeing results?
I think that's quite common, Tanya. At some stage or another, people will say, oh, I've tried everything, but actually what they've done is repeated the same patterns. Georgie mentioned this earlier about the neural pathways, beliefs, mindsets, all that sort of thing. So it is about coming at it from a different way rather than face, straight on, as if you want to sort of push your way through it. So it's about finding the right key for the person, and it's you can individualize with that person and find out what is it that inspires them, what is it that gives them joy, what is it that they'd love to do, say, if they were free from pain, how might life be different? So try and sort of spark their imagination as to what life could be like if they weren't in this place and they made that conscious decision that actually they weren't going to be defined by their condition, they weren't going to be stuck behind a label. So I would kind of approach it from that way and dig a little bit deeper with them to find out what it is that they'd really love to be doing.
And what is the pain stopping them from doing? And what impact does that have on them? And then we look at well-being, like a well-being wheel as well, don't we? Where we can look at different aspects of their life and look at, on a scale of 0 to 10, what are their relationships like, both with themselves, with their partner, if they have one, as well as the rest of their family, and their work, and all sorts of things. And it can help them just to begin to look at maybe how, what's holding them back in being able to move forward.
One of the big things on the wheel is purpose, isn't it, Georgie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And kind of what's happened, throughout life, and what conscious decision or unconscious decisions they may have had to make, that they weren't able to do something, or they didn't feel that they'd been encouraged to do something, or it might upset somebody if they did something. So there's all sorts of things behind this. I think it's just trying to find that key, isn't it, to how we can change that mindset.
Absolutely. And I remember at a funeral somebody saying, for a good life you need to love somebody, have somebody to love, have something to do, and that somebody to love might be an animal, but also have something to do and have something to look forward to. And often when we are struggling with pain or something, that becomes our focus. It holds us back from being able to see whatever else is going on as well. So looking more broadly as well as to what would they like to be doing and what's holding them back.
Yeah, and also secondary gains, of course. Quite often we have a condition, pain or symptom, but what does that give you an opportunity to say no to?
Yeah. And for one of my clients many years ago, he recognised that what it was his back pain had come on when he realised that he was in a well-qualified job, a profession, but he didn't like it. He wanted to change. He wanted to do, I can't remember what it was he wanted to do, but he was married with a family. And that would have had a big impact financially in his life. And the back pain came on, which stopped him having to make that decision. So, well, I can't do that anyway because he had back pain, unconsciously, obviously. But it stopped him from having to do that. Difficult. But yes, good question, Tanya. Okay, well, I think we'll bring this to an end now. Thank you all for joining us. Is there anything finally you want to say, Carole, before we leave?
Just thank you very much. It's lovely to see people on here. It's the first time I've done question and answer, so not knowing what's coming up can be a bit scary and put you outside your comfort zone.
There you are, but you've expanded yourself
I have.
over your fears.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and this has been recorded anyway, so there are many people who'll be watching this afterwards as well. So thank you all, and if you've got any further questions, put them down and I'm sure we can pop in and just check later on and answer any that are there. Okay, in the meantime, thanks very much then, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.